Hey guys, Dave Bartender here with an update on the January painting challenge. So this is the first half of my Crossbow Men. Now they're still quite shiny at the moment because I'm using the dip method with the Army Painter Quick Shade. I'm just modifying it slightly by watering it down with a little bit of odorless turpentine and brushing it on as opposed to dipping. So these guys have just had their base coats and then the dip, and then I follow that up with a mixture of Ajax Earthshade and Nun Oil as a wash. And then at this point I've done a little bit of highlights on the faces, but not too much, because what I'm going to do is hit everything with the matte varnish, and that will get rid of the very shiny sort of finish from the Army Painter Quick Shade. And once I've done that, then I'll go back through and do some touch-up highlights on things. But they're at a basic tabletop standard now, which is where I'm going to sort of leave them once they've had their varnish, as I move on to other things. So here's the rest of the unit here. So there's another 8 guys on this painting stick here, because I'm working in that sort of batch painting mode. So these guys will form the second unit of 10. Now, one of the things with Kings of War is that because you don't take casualties off, you use wound markers instead, you don't actually need to have a full unit's worth of models on their movement. If I go back to the first movement trays with here, what I'm going to do is pop a couple of little unit filling bases in those empty gaps. So there's only going to be 7 or 8 crossbowmen on each troop stand, but then I'll have a little bit of extra details on those unit fillers, and I might leave one as a gap to put a dice holder as their sort of casualty marker, because these guys have a fairly low nerve score, so they probably won't ever have more than sort of 5 or 6 wounds on them before they rout and run away, so they only need the 1 dice to mark those. So now that I've got pretty much all my crossbowmen done, just still need to do the varnishing, I gave myself another project as a bit of a reward. So this is the test model for the, trying to pronounce it correctly, Elohi, or I just refer to them as the Angels. So these are a flying large infantry model. They're a lot more resilient than the regular men-at-arms in the army, a lot faster, and they hit really hard. They don't have a huge number of attacks, but when they do hit, they do a lot of damage. So this model, I'm using pretty much the standard scheme which Mantic use throughout their Basilean armies. So that's mostly gold with some sort of high sheen metals in there as well. The wings, I've just gone for a white feather. So I did those just with a white undercoat and then a couple of washes to sort of get in the detail, and then I went back through and gave them a dry brush with white to bring out the sort of raised details of the feathers a little bit more. And I wasn't entirely happy with how it came out just with the dry brush, so I went back again and did a highlight on the feathers too. Now this model is the first time I've used the Vallejo liquid golds, so it's that one there, and I really like them. It came out beautifully. It gives really good coverage the first time. If I grab one of the other models that I've been working on, so if you see that there, that gold is just one coat of the liquid gold, so it's come up perfectly. There's none of the white showing through. One thing you need to be careful of with this stuff is it is a alcohol based paint, so the paint pigments are suspended in quite a high volume of alcohol. So if you mix any water with it, the metallic pigments in there will actually rust, and the paint will kind of die on you. So you want to make sure that you have an alcohol based brush cleaner, and if you're going to be thinning them, you want some alcohol thinner. Now you can get such things from the various different paint ranges, so I'm just using the Vallejo alcohol brush cleaner. I haven't actually needed to thin these because they're coming on really nicely without any thinning, so I haven't played around with that. But if you do need to thin them, then just pick up some isopropyl alcohol. You can usually get that at pharmacies. and that should do the trick for you. So I've also gone back through and done a few highlights and stuff onto the golds, and this is my first attempt at doing blonde hair. So what I did is I made a mixture of a sort of yellow-orange, the Citadel Evelyn Sunset. So I mixed that with some bleached bone as the base, and then gave that a wash with sepia and Ajax, just to pop in the details, and then went back and gave a highlight with a little bit more bleach bone put into the mix, just to bring out the details a bit more. So yeah, it was a really nice model to paint. The armour works really good. It's got some cool engraved detail, really nice rivets and stuff like that in there, and it made a really nice refreshing change from the men-at-arms that I've been painting the Crossbow Men, because I'm taking a bit more time on these models, because they're sort of figureheads within the army. So I'm doing a bit more time. I'm doing my older washing techniques and things like that, being a lot more careful with them, as opposed to the sort of slapdash technique of using the quick shades. So please let me know your comments. I'm not entirely happy with the sword. I may go back at a later date and sort of take that off the model and redo it with an airbrush. But so the next thing that I'm working on is the foot Paladins. So these guys, compared with the regular Basilian infantry, they've got crushing strength, which means that they're a lot more capable of wounding enemy models, and they're a bit more heavily armoured, so a bit more resilient. So I've now got base coats done on 20 of them. So from this point here, I then start applying the quick shades and washes and stuff like that. So happy with how these are coming out. I really like these models. I prefer them over the regular men-at-arms. So as I expand my army out from the 1,000 points that it's going to be in February, and start adding additional units, I'll definitely be picking up a few more of these. I want to have a good sort of 2 or 3 blocks of these as the main infantry sort of block within the army, and then use the men-at-arms spearmen on the flanks, because I've got more attacks. So by having them on the flanks, it means that I can then curve in when my army fights and get the spearmen onto the flanks where they do the most damage. So that's the first 10, and here's the second 10. So this one includes the models which I've got for my banner and musician, which give me some bonuses within the game. And again, these guys are ready now for their washes and shades. So there's a couple of games of American football on today that I'm going to be watching. It's the first day of the playoffs. So my plan for today is to get the quick shade onto these guys, and I'm also working on 2 units of 20 of my men-at-arms spearmen, so they're getting some green stuff work done on them today, and that should pretty much keep me busy the rest of the day. So thanks for watching, guys. A big shout out to Idic Bear for his shout out of my channel. I was glad to see lots of other people sort of participating in this project, and also a shout out to the Kings of War Australia boys. They're doing a Facebook challenge at the same time, so I'm also uploading photos and stuff to there as well. So cheers, guys. I'll have some photos up for you at the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll be updating you on some more progress throughout the week. Cheers.